again. Helpful.
Yeah, Memphis and Sacramento on the same slate's a nightmare.
That's very true. We are live Friday, October 19th. Last night, go Sixers, I guess. I don't agree. I'm out on the Sixers, which is going to probably cost me a bundle of money. Well, how many games we got today? 9 game slate.
Yeah, 9 today.
Yeah, 9 gamer. I like Fridays.
Yeah,
Fridays have been traditionally my best day.
You got a nice little 4-gamer at 8 o'clock too.
Oh, okay. I'm supposed to go to dinner with the wife because friends of ours bought a new house, and that's the reason to have dinner. They moved about a mile from their previous home, so we need to celebrate with a meal. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play that 8 o'clock slate. Well, I just had to go ask, hey, what time we were planning on going to dinner? Because I would like it to be after 7. They're like, she was like, we can go, or like, Ann and I can go before you. I was like, okay, I'm going to be here until 7.
Yeah.
There's a nine game slate today. If you think that I'm going to eat chicken parm at 6:30, you're out of your mind. Adam, how'd your night end up last night?
Went pretty well for me. Did well in head-to-heads, did well in tournaments, took advantage of something I think that I don't do enough is taking advantage of the second or third tournaments that pop up. Like on DraftKings, you had the $8 with 100K to first, basically like lottery. But then once that fills, you get the smaller ones. And so I made sure to actually get some volume in I think it was the third one they put up with 5,500 people instead of 62,000. And so got a top 10 in that, had 20% of my teams in the top 100. So did pretty well.
That's something I want to take a look at now that you say it. I'd love to see what the difference is in cut lines and maybe average top 5 score in the second tournament to pop up compared to the main tournaments to see if they're any harder or softer.
It was weird last night. I didn't go back and look at what the actual cash lines or anything, but just when I was flipping through them, looking at ownership percentages in the big lottery style one, my core plays that I thought were really good plays were lower owned. And then in the smaller tournament, even sneakier guys, like I was really high on Rodney Magruder yesterday. He was twice as popular in the smaller one as the bigger one, which I guess in part's probably field size. Anyone who puts 150 lineups in has a higher percentage.
Sure.
But yeah, so the percentages seem sharper, but then you obviously make up for that by it being just so much easier to get a top 10 finish.
Yeah.
I mean, I made 3 times my buy-in in the small one, and I made 1.5 times in the big one.
Speaking of buy-ins, are you going to be able to find a tournament for yourself today? I saw you were not very happy in the 6:15 range while I was waiting for my coffee to brew.
I sucked it up. I mean, I played the the $3 and the $5 20 max that I'm allowed to play, but it just sucks. And I said it to someone on Twitter, I'm speaking purely from my self-interest. I understand that it's a good user experience to occasionally give a big, $4 20 max. But for me personally, I can't play anything below $5 outside of the sharpshooter and the big $4. And then there's nothing in that 5 to 10 range. So if I want to get the same or close to the same tournament volume that I normally play, I have to go up to the $15 or the $44, which obviously cuts back how many lineups I can play, and it just makes it gross.
Yeah, it's a really large gap. FanDuel similar at the low end, where if you want to put in 150 into the quarter, it'll cost you $37.50. The next tier, if you're looking to do 150 max on FanDuel, would be $600 total. So
Right.
It jumps from a quarter to $4, which is just FanDuel desperately needs a mini max, a $151 tournament, or even a $152 tournament to bridge that gap. It'll fill for sure.
Yeah, because I actually liked that they've been running them for football, obviously, but they've had a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and it's been nice for me because again I can't play them on DraftKings, and they don't have 150 max, and can't play anything else. So
yeah, I've been playing the I guess is it the 2 on FanDuel?
Yeah,
for NFL weekends. It's perfect. It's the perfect spot. Yeah. Like and subscribe, everybody. If you're here, we really appreciate you being here. We're about to break down this 9-game slate. We're going to go game by game. order of the schedule. So starting with 7 o'clock games, working our way up to the late game. So if anybody's trying to jump to a specific team, it's going to be going based on the schedule that I have on the left-hand side of my screen. So if you're here, just assume that you need to jump to, I don't know, 4 hours later to look at the Bucks Pacers game at the rate we go. Let's do this. First game up on the docket, the Orlando Magic hosting the Charlotte Hornets. I should have wore a Hornets shirt. That's stupid. Hornets, 2-point favorites. They have a 110 implied total. The Magic, 108. Not a game that I'm super excited about. I don't think anyone probably is. So is there anything that jumps out at you in this game just right off the bat?
Not as far as a play goes, but I do think it's worth mentioning. Obviously we're talking about one game sample sizes at this point in the season, but Mo Bamba getting significant fourth quarter run over Nikola Vucevic in their first game, despite it being a very close game in the fourth quarter, is very, very concerning for me.
Yeah.
And you have, Vucevic, who is normally one of my favorite guys to play in tournaments because he's such a high upside player. But if they're going to go to Bamba's defense in close games in the fourth quarter, it just takes so much away from Vucevic potentially. So that's something to at least be concerned about. It doesn't, I don't think it puts Bamba in play. I still don't think he plays, enough minutes. I think he played 25 in that game, but he's almost $5,000 on DraftKings. So not like looking to go there. It just makes Vucevic less useful. Gordon, obviously is always a really high upside play. I think that it's an okay spot for him. And then, Kemba on the other side, kind of the same thing. It's that I think he's a little more expensive based on median projection than I would like, but there's no question that he has a 50 plus fantasy point ceiling at, an $8,000 price tag.
Yeah, once again, Kemba's just a guy that'll never pop up for me because he's always just priced in the same spot. So every day, if I want Kemba, I have to make a manual manipulation to get him.
Yeah. He's a guy that I think if you use randomness or some other way to distinguish between higher volatility players, he's a guy that should be on the higher end.
Yeah, I would agree with that. 8,800 on FanDuel. I like it because, the Magic's backcourt is garbage and Kemba should eat. But I just think that the Hornets are significantly better than the Magic in general. So I never know how to hash out Kemba. I never feel good about it. I never think I don't want Kemba tonight. He's just kind of always a part of the slate.
Right. Yeah. He's a guy that he's like your prototypical tournament play. He's always a little bit overpriced for cash, but he can definitely win you tournaments. I do think Malik Monk's interesting here. I'm trying to pull up the rotations from that first game.
He played some minutes.
Yeah. And he's relatively inexpensive. And so far, at least, there's not a ton of good value on this slate, I don't think. So Malik Monk, if he's going to play, 25 to 28 minutes, I think is pretty interesting.
I have him in right now for 28 minutes.
Yeah.
So there you go, everybody. Malik Monk time. I feel similarly about Jeremy Lamb, particularly on FanDuel. 5,300 I think is a pretty nice price point if he's going to be getting some time. He's a guy that I'm going to have a decent amount of. Any interest in Jeremy Lamb?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. I think that this game in general is just kind of a tournament game for me because Lamb fits into that same analysis as Kemba and Aaron Gordon too, where he isn't someone that I really want to rely on in cash games, but he's more than capable of, contributing heavily, being very productive on a permanent basis in any individual game. And if he's going to play, 27-ish minutes, he can certainly go for 35 fantasy points.
Yeah. This is just, I wish that this was a different game.
One thing
do you like Isaac or anything or Bamba? I don't see it, right?
Not at their price tags. Bamba played, I think it was 25 minutes, which is nice. And the fact that he played over Vucevic is good for him. If he were 4K, I would be kind of, not excited, but I would be interested in running him out there. But just where's the upside value at 4,700 on DraftKings? It just has a lot more risk than reward, I think. And kind of feel similarly about Jonathan Isaac. I guess Isaac's better. The price tag, he's actually cheaper than Bamba on DraftKings at 4,400.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess some interest in Isaac.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull their rotations up now. That's one thing I guess worth mentioning because it came into play yesterday. When we do these shows early, obviously we haven't dug in as much as we do throughout the day. And part of, at least for me, part of my process is going through rotations and manually mapping out minutes to make sure that I don't fall into traps of just kind of going with baselines. So like one thing that popped up yesterday, we talked on the show, we had kind of a completely different take on the Miami game than we ended up with later in Slack and in articles and stuff. So just I guess the point is, kind of check into stuff throughout the day. Don't necessarily take, the 9 o'clock in the morning stuff as gospel.
Yeah, very, very true. I think somebody was tweeting at me like, "Oh, I've got a ton of somebody that got mentioned in the early show." I was like, you probably don't want that anymore."
Yes. Someone asked me in chat yesterday at like 6 o'clock if I was still on Tyler Johnson. I was like, I haven't been on Tyler Johnson since like noon.
Yeah. I think somebody asked me about like TJ McConnell. I was like, I mean, yeah, he was like a decent option at 3,800 or whatever. He wasn't like linchpin of my lineup.
Right. And that was like we did. I mean, yesterday, the obvious example, we did it before we got news of Cameron Payne, who sucked, but it also opened up Antonio Blakeney.
Yeah, exactly. There was no value at the bottom, and then all of a sudden there was just a lot of it. I mean, Dunn got scratched like basically when we finished.
Right. Yeah. Even Archie Ardono scored like 26 points or something.
Yeah. Michael L in the chat. Josh, do you still read emails asking for advice? I do. The first week of the NBA season, we get inundated with support emails. So my own personal email is a little bit harder to check. But once the season goes on and it starts to chill out, I can get to it a little bit more. But I mean, sometimes the question is a lot deeper than I have time to be able to answer. Sometimes the questions that I get are things that should probably be videos, not email responses. But yeah, I mean, feel free. I'll get to it at some point in time, probably the weekend. If it's like, hey, do you like this guy or this guy? Those are best for our Slack chat for premium members. I can't do all the 1v1s in an email. I don't expect to have any exposure to this game with like any sort of volume, at least.
Oh wait, never mind. I'm trying to figure out. So Jonathan Isaac closed the first half, but then played like half of a minute in the fourth quarter. And I'm trying to figure out what they did. So Jerry and Grant closed, but it was over DJ Augustine. Vucevic, Simmons, Gordon. I cannot figure out who played over Isaac. I feel like I'm just like, it's like too early in the morning for me to look at this or something.
Never Google?
What?
Fournier?
Oh, no. He closed the first half and the second half.
What are you trying to figure out right now?
So Isaac played like 6 of the last 7 minutes in the first half.
Okay.
But then he played like 30 seconds in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out
Gordon, Vooch, Fournier, Simmons, and the point guard, whoever the point guard was, right?
Right. But I'm trying to figure out who. I guess it was Aaron Gordon didn't play the last in the first half. Gordon sat out a stretch of the late second quarter, I think is what it is. Jonathan Isaac played. Yeah, so there were like 4 full minutes where Aaron Gordon went to the bench in the second quarter, and then Jonathan Isaac played. Yep. And in the fourth quarter, Aaron Gordon played the entire quarter.
He did. So did Jonathan Simmons. So did Jerry and Grant for some strange reason.
Yeah,
are you using Popcorn Machine?
I'm using NBA rotations.
Okay.
Is Popcorn Machine back up?
Oh, I don't know. That's why I just went to NBA rotations, and I was just like, okay, I see what's going on here.
Yeah. So
no DJ Augustine in the fourth quarter. No Jonathan Isaac in the fourth quarter. How does that happen?
So Jonathan Isaac, that concerns me just because. Yeah, I don't know. He just that's weird. I'll have to dig into that one. Jerry and Grant, that makes Jerry and Grant kind of an interesting tournament idea, though. And again, you'll have to dig into it more. But if he played well, and that's why he got those closing minutes over Augustine, that assuming he's really cheap. I mean, he's 3,500. If there's a chance that he's going to play, 28 minutes or something, or 26 minutes instead of 20, that gives you some value in tournaments potentially.
Yeah, I have him in for 18 minutes right now, but if he's going to be in their closing lineup and play an entire fourth quarter for because they want him to, not just because of a weird game,
Yeah,
He's not the
he
guy I
played
would
the last
expect him to
16
close
minutes
with.
of that game.
That's a weird closing lineup.
Yeah. So who did Miami? I mean, Miami was small. Miami closed with Dragic, Magruder, Wade, Richardson. But it's not even like they went 2 guards. They just played him over DJ Augustine.
I think it's really crazy that John Isaac didn't play from the middle of the third quarter on.
Yeah. I almost wonder if he, like, twisted an ankle or something, but I don't know. Well, no, so Bamba was in for Vucevic. Terrence Ross. Maybe Jonathan Simmons was playing really well or something. I don't know.
I mean, he's the only guy that they can put out there on the wing. Who else is going to be there?
Yeah. The big
John
concern,
Simmons wins by default here.
the thing that's really concerning to me is that if you look at the first half rotation, Jonathan Isaac's second quarter minutes came at the expense of Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon's not a guy that I want to be playing the person who benefits when he's not on the court, because he just plays so many minutes and he's their best player.
Yeah.
So like if Jonathan Isaac was getting minutes, if his second quarter minutes were at the expense of like Jonathan Simmons, I'd be like, okay, that's probably the plan. But I don't feel overly confident in Aaron Gordon, sitting more than 8 minutes in this game,
Agreed.
or 10 minutes.
Agreed. Ultimately, I think this game is mostly just deep cuts. I don't think there's anybody to go at hard.
Yeah. It's games like this though. You can just find sneaky value sometimes, and that's why I think they're interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I'm not gonna have any sort of major exposure to Aaron Gordon or Vooch or Kemba. They just kind of exist today.
Jonathan Simmons played a ton.
He really did. I was watching it. He was. It was one of those games where he was just kind of everywhere.
Was he? Do you remember if he was playing well, or if that was like the plan going in?
I think he was playing well.
'Cause, I mean, he's another one. He's cheap. He's 4,400. He played.
He can just disappear.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, he played the last 15 minutes of the first half, and then he played the last 18 minutes of the second half.
Yeah, he came in like the 5-minute mark into the third quarter and never left the floor again.
Yeah. Wow.
He played a longer stretch than anyone else.
Yeah. And man, they really ran their starters at the end of this game, with the exception of Vucevic and Fournier, like a ton. Or not even their starters, but their closing lineup.
Yeah. Weird.
I think so. The main takeaway, I think, is that there is going to be value. There's the potential for a lot of upside from the cheaper guys in this Orlando team. I don't think that it's after one game we can be confident in how exactly the rotation is going to work and who the most reliable of the group is. But when you take that group as a whole, and you have Jerry and Grant at 3,500 and Simmons, at 4,400, and even Isaac, even though he didn't do it in the first game, if they're in competitive games, if they're going to run this much of a tight rotation in the fourth quarter and down the stretch, there are going to be guys that outperform their salaries. So kind of being overweight without, wrecking your night if they're wrong on, each of these guys, I think makes sense. The value guys.
I agree. That's way more Orlando Magic rotation talk than I was expecting.
Yeah, me too.
At least we don't have to worry too much about the Hornets outside of Monk. Like, we know what we're getting with Kemba and Batum, Marvin Williams. Like, those guys are.
Yeah, I mean, this team's been together for what, like 12 years now or something.
Yeah, they're the worst team to have so much continuity. It's like, how does that happen? Really got to maintain that 38 win pace for 5 straight years. Ugh. All right, moving on. Battle for New York. Brooklyn Nets hosting the New York Knicks, the offensive juggernaut New York Knicks. Brooklyn 110.75 implied total. Knicks 107.75. 3-point favorites for Brooklyn. Knicks coming off just a ridiculous offensive day against the Hawks. Can't say I saw that one coming. I'm not going to get trapped into D'Angelo Russell tonight, unless you tell me that I should get trapped into D'Angelo Russell.
Meh. I mean, yeah, I like Karis LeVert more than I like Russell. Russell obviously has upside, but he's expensive enough. I mean, he's in the mid $6,000 range.
Yeah.
Where for one, there's a couple of point guards on the slate that I think are too cheap and give you just as much, if not more, upside, even though they have tough matchups. But also, I wish Russell would play like 35 minutes, and that's just not going to happen. Especially with Crab coming back, I think that makes it easier for Dinwiddie to get possibly a couple of minutes away from Russell. So I'm
Of all,
not really in love with Russell. I doubt I'll have much.
of all the players that played for the Nets in Game 1, besides Kuruks, who I think I'm saying that correctly because I actually watched this game. I hate myself for it, but I had so much D'Angelo Russell and Blake Griffin that I had to. Russell didn't play a single second in the fourth quarter. Everyone else played besides him and Kuruks.
Wow, yeah.
Which is just... I mean, I liked him because I didn't think there was a situation where he wouldn't play a minute in the fourth quarter.
Dinwiddie was playing out of his mind. I think is probably what it was.
I mean, I have the rotation graphic on the screen now for the game. I mean, Dinwiddie is basically just on the floor always.
Yeah, I just pulled it up. Wow.
Harris, I mean, I didn't see Jared Dudley playing like 30 minutes or whatever it ended up being.
That was really frustrating. So he
had to.
Well, I had like computer issues that slate, and so long story short, I was rushing, and I ended up with Ed Davis in my cash lineup, which worked out fine. But it's because he was insanely productive. But then, like,
always
Jared
is
Dudley closing over him was incredibly annoying.
Yeah, for some reason I picture Ed Davis like his body, like Sean May was when he was in college.
Yeah, I can see it.
But every time I see Ed Davis, he's like lean and bouncy, and it's just like
I do the same thing. I
don't remember you, right?
Yeah, it's like the kind of player he is. I picture him completely differently than what he is.
Yeah, I just picture him being super doughy, and he's not. And he's really good. He's a great rotation piece. He's super underrated.
I thought he could get minutes at the 4 alongside Jared Allen.
Yeah.
I apparently was wrong because Jared Dudley is the only person good enough to play the 4 alongside Jared Allen.
I think it was just because of Blake.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I didn't expect, like, how many people expected Jared Dudley to be playing the entire fourth quarter for the Nets in Game 1?
Yeah, I mean, I projected Dudley, I think, for like 24 minutes, and I thought I might be high.
Yeah. So
hopefully Hollis Jefferson comes back, and that is just a moot point.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Dudley is not going to play those minutes if RHJ is back. That's who's going to be guarding Blake Griffin in that particular scenario, not 12 minutes of Dudley. He had to be gassed, man. Whew.
Yeah.
So I have Hollis Jefferson in for right now, 24 minutes.
That sounds right.
I mean, this is going to be a team where they're probably all playing somewhere in like the mid-20s and going 10 deep, which is disgusting from a DFS perspective.
Yeah, I think most slates you're going to get Karis LeVert as a play, Jared Allen as a play, and that'll probably be about it. Because I expected... What'd you say?
Jared Allen looked good.
Yeah, he was really impressive in the preseason too. So was LeVert.
Popped a corner 3 while I was watching. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, him and Andre Drummond, just 3-point shooting contest.
Yeah. Drummond had an open look twice late in the game, passed it up the first time, and then got the ball with like 2 seconds left on the shot clock and airballed the 3. I was like, okay, that's kind of what I figured.
I think Nurkic did that last night too.
Ugh, I didn't see any of that game. Does NBA.com still have like condensed games?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
I want to watch it, but I can't do a 10 o'clock start or I'll die. Is there anything you won in this game? Are you buying Tim Hardaway stock?
I mean, not really. Like he's a guy. He's a volume scorer. He's going to have games like that, but he's not going to be consistent, and so that takes him out of the pool for like optimal plays. If you're looking for a mid-range tournament guy that can score 50, then sure. But he didn't even play like a lot of minutes. I don't know. I still think Kevin Knox is kind of interesting just because he's cheap. Nobody's going to play him. He's not consistent, but he's really athletic. Like basically you're describing Tim Hardaway at a discount.
Yeah. You're describing someone you want to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of this game. I don't see anybody where I'm just like, this is a guy that I need to have.
Enes Kanter should do really well.
7,500 on FanDuel, 7,400 on DraftKings.
I don't know that you can prioritize him. I just think he does really well.
I've got him for 35 fantasy points. I mean, it should be a good matchup. He's too big for Jared Allen. Like from like a man strength perspective.
Yeah.
Jared Allen's a little too wispy still. Yeah, look, I wouldn't have any problem with Cantor. He feels really safe. Like Cantor as a cash center option, I think I'd be okay with.
Yeah, I mean the problem is you run into, at least on DraftKings, you run into Kevin Love at close to the same price.
He's gonna get locked down by the lovely Timberwolves. Well, there it was. So for those people that have been watching for a year for me now, the little bar that like stops your chair from leaning backwards and keeps you like pretty vertical slips out from time to time, and I guess I lean against it pretty heavily. So like once every show, it pops out and scares the shit out of me and like throws me backwards towards my wall. It just happened right now. It's a tradition unlike any other. Are we going to see Trey Burke chalk today like we did 2 days ago?
I hope so, because I like Trey Young more, but I think he's a decent play. I don't think he's completely necessary. Like if the game against the Hawks didn't blow out, you had Trey Burke basically on pace to play like 30 minutes.
Yeah. If
you want to pay close to $6,000 for 30 minutes of Trey Burke, I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world, but I don't think it has a huge profit margin either.
126 points for the Knicks.
They just, speaking of deep rotations, it's a team that I think you're going to get like one or two guys on most nights that have big games because they're going to play fast and because they have guys that can get up a lot of shots, but it's just trying to figure out where it's going to come from and feeling good about their minutes is going to be impossible.
I mean, there's no way to even read into anything from this Knicks rotation. Mario Hezonja came out at the midway point of the second quarter, didn't play again at all until the start of the fourth quarter, and then never came off the floor again. Ron Baker played the entire fourth quarter. Alonzo,
I'm attributing that to the score.
Oh yeah, for sure. What I mean is like I could look at this now, but it's totally irrelevant.
Right. Yeah, like I'm basically for this game, I'm just kind of looking at the first half rotation and trying to project it onto the second half.
D Shook in our Slack. Let me make sure I say this. Okay, that's fair. It's NBArotations.info. I thought you could see the URL bar on my screen. I was gonna say like just check out the top of the screen, but you can't. So I was trying to be a dick. I couldn't get it out though. NBArotations.info. Yeah, I'd like to look at this more, but for this particular Knicks team, there's not a lot to glean out of that.
No. Yeah, I mean, the only like really interesting thing that I see in the first half is that Kevin Knox played like 11 straight minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to see that continue. And
right. Yeah, because like I mean, my theory on Knox is that his minutes are going to be incredibly volatile, but when he's playing well, he's going to stay on the floor.
For sure.
Does that make sense?
Two things from chat. Ryan Donnelly. They're coming from both Ryan Donnelly. Why didn't D'Angelo Russell play the fourth quarter on Wednesday? Yeah, I've been asking myself that question. I don't have an answer other than like other people were just going better, I guess. And then he also said that popcorn machine is up.
Oh, sweet.
If you had to play one person from this game, who would it be?
Karis LeVert.
He looked bad when trying to get a shot at the end of that game.
I didn't see it. I don't know. I buy into him as a good player. I think he's a little more expensive than I would like, but I still think he plays 30 to 32 minutes here. He does a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with him, but he was like the guy they were going to get a bucket in like the last 2 or 3 minutes, and he didn't look good in isolation.
Yeah, that's believable.
This game's got a pretty high total. I feel like we might be overlooking it a little.
So I was going to say, I think this is a game that if you're game stacking, it's one of the best games to game stack But as far as one-offs, it gets tough because it's really tough to predict where the points are going to come from. It's just that I do think there are going to be a lot of points. So whether it's if you're playing one-offs, I don't think there's many guys that I want like a ton of exposure to, but maybe having exposure to like a lot of different pieces in this game makes sense because I think there will be a lot of scoring. But then also if you are game stacking and getting, multiple pieces, I do expect there to be a lot of stats to go around. Like it's two fast-paced, inefficient shooting teams that are going to turn the ball over.
Yeah. Get away from it because we've got better games to talk about. For example, the Memphis Grizzlies hosting the Atlanta Hawks. Grizzlies 109.5 implied total. Haven't seen a Grizzlies total that high in a pretty long time. Hawks 102, 7.5 point favorites for the Grizz. I mean, the Grizz were getting totals last year towards the end where it was like 89 or something stupid. They were so bad. The Hawks just got bludgeoned by the Knicks, which makes me think I should be mashing Gasol or Conley, maybe Jaren Jackson. You like anything here from Memphis?
They just have so many guys that are going to play decent minutes. I like Gasol. I like Conley a little bit. I like Conley less than I like Gasol. And then it's just like a total crapshoot. I don't buy into Jaren Jackson's minutes from that game because if you look at the rotation, he played like a stint to end the first and start the second, and then he did the same in the third and fourth, and then he came in for blowout run. So if you take like 6.5 minutes off of what Jaren Jackson played, I think that's closer to what he plays in a competitive game.
Yeah.
Shelvin Mack closed the first half and the second half. So that's kind of interesting, assuming he's very, very cheap.
Oh, God, Shelvin Mack.
Like very, very cheap.
Jaren Jackson had that same mid-first to mid-second quarter run that Kevin Knox had, which is interesting.
Yeah. I just think it's going to be tougher for... The problem with Jackson is he did... Never mind. He played 6 minutes alongside Gasol. Or actually, he played like 8 minutes alongside Gasol. So that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a chance, and I haven't looked, but I think there's a chance that Jackson ends up being over-projected today minutes-wise, just because of normally you'll see a lot of these sites just kind of take what they did in the first game and not look at easy stuff to look at. I have
him in for 25. You think I'm a little high there?
Yeah, I think he plays like 20.
Okay. Appreciate it. Anybody else from Memphis that stands out to you? I don't really like. It's just like the mess of dudes in the mid fours.
Yeah, nothing but secondary plays, and it's tough to feel good about any of them.
Yeah. God, the Hawks are just so bad. A Shelvin Mack play, I think, could be interesting.
Yeah, it's like if no good value opens up today, then I think Shelvin Mack's basically the Jerry and Grant play. He could very easily score like 9 fantasy points, but there's a chance that he plays 25 minutes at 3,400. And as of right now, there's not a lot of value, and there are players that I want to pay for.
Okay. And you said you preferred Gasol to Conley in this one?
Yeah, I always prefer Gasol to Conley. I just think he's a higher upside play.
Conley here against Trae Young, but I guess Trae Young's probably not going to be bodying up Conley.
I don't know who's going to... I think Conley does well. It's just I think Gasol's more of the focal point.
Let me hop to the Hawks. All right, so they started with Young, Prince, Bays, Vince Carter, and Alex Len. So Bazemore's on Conley there, right?
Yes.
Has to be?
Yeah, I would think so. Or, they can put Prince on him.
Sure. I guess what I was saying is it's not Trae Young.
Right, unless they want it to be. Like, they can... The point is Atlanta can put whatever defender they think is their best on Conley. Because they don't. Can
you imagine if they had Trae Young on Conley and Gasol ran some like pick and pop or pick and roll, bringing in Trae Young and Alex Len to defend that? Jesus.
Yeah.
That's an immediate time. They would try to call that timeout before the play started.
Yeah. As soon as the play started.
God. I feel like Gasol would get it on the pop on a switch or something stupid and just laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got eaten alive by having some Hawks 2 nights ago, and I'm gonna do my best to not go back there, but I don't know if I'm just overreacting to their first game. Do you want Alex Len or Bazemore or Prince or Young? Do you want any of these guys?
I want Young, and at least in tournaments. I haven't decided about in cash because I think the matchup's tough, but I think 5,600 for a player who is gonna you would expect to play 32, 33 minutes and has the upside that Young has, but also has the passing ability that Young has, which gives him a relatively high floor despite the matchup. I think that's a little bit too cheap of a price tag, and it's a spot that I really want to attack because I just think that he's priced more to like his floor than to his ceiling.
Played 33 minutes in the first game, 1 for 5 from three, 5 of 14 from the field. I mean, I like that he took 14 shots. More than anything, I guess. Trae Young, 14 shots. Prince, 15. Bazemore, 12. I mean, to be the three highest volume guys in a game where they weren't really playing in the fourth quarter. I think I have that right. Right? No, Trae Young, Prince, and Baze all played most of the beginning of the fourth quarter. I'm wrong. Ignore me. Alex Len, the guy that I had a lot of, is the guy that didn't show up in the fourth quarter. Fuck off, Alex Len.
So yeah, I mean, you had 5 assists from Young in that game, in a game where the Hawks were not particularly efficient shooting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think I'm interested to see where he comes in ownership wise, but I actually expect that he'll be one of my core point guards today. I like Trae Young more than I like Trey Burke.
So do I. Do you want any of the other guys from the Hawks? Bazemore, Prince, or Len?
No, not particularly. Yeah, I mean Prince always has upside, but actually, no, I take it back. I do like Prince. Chandler Parsons got eaten alive in their last game, which you would kind of expect, but just absolutely destroyed in that game defensively. And Prince is still like 6,200 on DraftKings. And he's another guy that I would like. Him and Young are the two guys on Atlanta that I expect to play more than 32 minutes. So Prince, I actually do like also.
Chandler Parsons, negative 19 in 22 minutes.
Yeah, I don't remember what the stat was anymore, but the Memphis beat writer tweeted something about Parsons. It might have been like the field goal percentages of Indiana when Parsons was on and off the floor, and it was just insane.
Yeah. I'll likely have some Prince. I probably need to do. Okay, how many minutes would you expect Alex Len to play?
Um, 30.
Holy shit. That's not helpful, man. I have him in for 27, and I like if I run a crunch, I get 60% Alex Len. Yeah, and I was like, okay, he's gonna say like 22. I'm too high, and I could just knock this down. And here you are coming in with 3 additional minutes. It's gonna make this even worse.
So I mean, I would for tournament projections, I would say 30, but then I would also be not overexposing myself because he's so volatile. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the rotation, like he played 6+ first quarter minutes. He played like 7, almost 8 minutes in the second quarter. So that would give him, 14 minutes right there.
Yeah.
He didn't play the fourth quarter in a, blowout.
But did he not play the fourth quarter because it was a blowout, or did they sit him because he blows?
I mean, I think either one's possible.
I mean, if you can't get the fourth quarter run against the Knicks this season, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, who did they? Trae Young, Taurean Prince, Baze.
Poythress?
Spellman played the 5 at that stretch at the beginning of the fourth where the starters were in. It was Spellman at the 5.
Yeah,
but those were the only minutes Spellman played the entire game.
Yeah, I had some Amari Spellman because he was 3,500, and I had him projected for like north of 10 minutes, so he was part of the $3,500 punt play FanDuel guys.
I saw more than 0 DraftKings head-to-heads against me that had Amari Spellman, so that was fun.
Yeah, DK, we wouldn't have been in my player pool for DK. That was a FanDuel drop your lowest score guy for me.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay,
so yeah, Len obviously it's very, very, very volatile. It's kind of like the Hassan Whiteside spot yesterday, like where I thought Whiteside could play anywhere from like 25 to 34 minutes with pretty equal probability. Like Len, I would say like 22 to 30, probably most often playing between like 24 and 28.
All right, I'm going to set my ownership cap now so I stop getting 62% Alex Len on a crunch.
So, I mean, he can get absolutely wrecked by Gasol, but what are they going to do about it? Like, it's not like they have someone that, like, what are Miles Plumlee?
I was going to say, you bring in Miles Plumlee. What do you think his ownership comes in at then? Because obviously what we're saying is he's a point per dollar best play of centers if he plays 30 minutes.
Right. Like he's always productive, or not. He's not always productive when he plays. He always has monster upside when he plays.
Yeah.
It obviously is a tough matchup, both on the defensive end and the offensive end. But the price tag, I think, accounts for that. I mean, if Alex Len were to play 28 minutes every game this season and always be $5,100, you would profit by playing him regardless of matchup.
Holy shit, that's a really good point to think about. You don't think about it like that all that much. It's terrifying for me to see as much as I got. So I always have a hard time like rectifying whether that's a good idea or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that. Well, I expect he'll be low owned because it's a bad matchup, and because he was relatively popular against New York and killed everyone. So which will be nice because you can still get 1.5 or 2x the field without sitting there and being like, oh, I can't win tonight because Alex Len did what Alex Len does.
I'm going to put my cap in now at 20 and just let that go for a bit.
I mean, I haven't run any crunches, but just like mentally, as far as where would I like to cap Alex Len, that is probably what I was thinking.
Okay. I like it. Who's the guy you want the most of in this game?
Trae Young.
Bold. It's a bold pick, Cotton.
Yeah. And also just scrolling through, I thought point guard was kind of weak.
That's fair. All right, let's talk about a fun game. The Minnesota Timberwolves hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers. Wolves 115.75 implied total, second highest on the slate. Cavs 107.25. They are 8.5 point underdogs in Minnesota. I don't know what to make of this Minnesota team. This is 2 straight years they've dropped a game to the Spurs on opening night. I don't know what that means, but it's just a true statement. I made Jimmy Butler the thumbnail on YouTube for today because that seems fun. We'll do this one in reverse. Who's the guy you want the most of in this game?
Kevin Love.
Okay. I got 43% Kevin Love on my first FanDuel crunch.
Yeah, that's
8K is too low for him here.
He's 8K on FanDuel also?
Yes.
Yeah. I believe he's 8K on DraftKings too with multi-position. Yeah. So Love. So for one, whenever we hear a coach say that they're going to limit minutes by playing people in shorter stretches, take that with a grain of salt because it doesn't really happen. That's what they said about Kevin Love, and I think he played like 33 minutes or something. And that's what they said about Jimmy Butler, and he also played a ton. So regardless, I think Love should be, perfectly conditioned to play this game. It's a matchup against Minnesota that he should do well in. They have, ever since Thibodeau came, they've struggled against stretch fives because of the defensive scheme that they run. And Love obviously is a very efficient shooter that can take advantage of that. On top of that, he's just going to have monster usage with this team with LeBron gone. You saw him get up 18 field goal attempts and 14 free throws in 34 minutes against Toronto. The 14 free throws don't necessarily show up in the stuff that people quickly look at, but that's a huge deal, obviously. So just massive usage for Love. Rebounding should be there. It's just such a great spot for him.
Hard to disagree with anything there. I mean, he's gonna get all of the volume that he wants to have, and that's a good thing. And they had arguably the toughest matchup they can find to start the season. So not that Minnesota is any great shakes, but they're in a slight bit of turmoil. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to the Timberwolves lately, but there could be a stabbing in Minnesota tonight. Does Jimmy Butler get cheered or booed when he gets announced tonight?
Booed.
Really? Probably.
Yeah, I mean, fans don't like it when you try and force your way out of town.
I don't know. When you come in and everybody gets the news that you basically MF'd everyone, grabbed the third string, and whooped up on everybody else, like, there's a little bit of, that dude might be right.
Yeah, I think that anyone who's not a Minnesota fan probably appreciates that and really, really likes Jimmy Butler right now. And Minnesota fans probably don't.
Ryan Peter in the chat. Love going back to Minnesota worth anything? No, because he's been in Cleveland for 5 fucking years.
I'll say, and not to mention, if you played in Minnesota and then your GM was like, hey, go play with LeBron, would you be mad?
No, yeah, he got the best deal possible. He's got a ring. He locked down Steph Curry to win a title. Yeah, I said it.
and not to mention, it's a phenomenal spot. And
yeah,
so if you want to boost him for the revenge narrative, go for it, because getting more Kevin Love is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I don't think he's clamoring to be back in Minnesota right now.
Jimmy Butler for Kevin Love. Who says no?
Kevin Love?
Kevin Love retires.
I mean, I think Cleveland would do that deal. And I think that Minnesota probably would too, because Love next to Towns is probably a really good usage of the two of them.
I think it's a completely pointless deal for both teams. Like, there would be this, I would still consider them like the same exact team.
Yeah, I don't think it makes anybody any different, but I think they would both do that deal.
Yeah. I guess I think it would depend on if they feel like rearranging deck chairs or not.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, God. Well, now I can't stop thinking about it.
So I think one other interesting piece from Cleveland is going to be, and I'm not sure which one, but one of Rodney Hood or Sadie Osman, because Jimmy Butler is going to defend one of them, and Andrew Wiggins is going to defend the other one.
I want the one that Wiggins is guarding.
So do I. So I think that putting in a rule of having a maximum one of Rodney Hood or Osman is a good idea, and then getting some of both if you're multi-owner.
They played a lot together. I'm a little surprised by that. Chetty played a lot. He looked active too.
Yeah, that was one mistake I made. Like, I really, really liked him when we did our show that morning.
Yeah.
And then I even liked him in my article. And then, like, as the day went on, as I was making lineups, I kept just, like, picturing Kawhi Leonard and OG just shutting him down at what I thought was going to be, like, 30 or 40% ownership. So I played, like, 20%. And then he was only 17% owned and then went for 40. And I just wished I'd made my lineups at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. 6,200 for him on FanDuel.
It's getting up there.
He's hard to justify.
I mean, is he going to get 10 rebounds a game?
No. I mean, if he does, I bet the Cavs are super happy.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I think the rebounding total was towards his high end. He shot 50% from the field. He got to the line 6 times. Like, obviously, that was a ceiling game. I think that he was 4,200 on DraftKings opening night, and that was clearly too cheap. I think 54 there is pretty fair. I don't have a problem with him if he ends up in my lineups, but he's not someone that I'm gonna be like forcing in.
How much do you think Larry Nance affects all of this?
I think it affects Thompson the most.
Okay.
It probably knocks like a few minutes off of Osman, so like maybe like 30 minutes from him instead of 33. Thompson, I would think.
Doesn't it just remove like all of Ante Zizic's minutes?
Oh yeah, I didn't even realize he played 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so knock off those 14 minutes, and then Probably take like 8 minutes off of Tristan Thompson.
Yeah. I don't see it really affecting anyone else on this team.
Yeah. I didn't realize Zidane didn't even played. Yeah, so
I will probably only have Kevin Love here.
Yeah, I think I'll have Love and I'll sprinkle in the guards because one of Hood or Osman's going to be defended by Wiggins a lot, which is going to be nice. And then George Hill again. I don't think point guard's that strong. He played 31 minutes. Facing Jeff Teague / Derrick Rose isn't concerning either.
Yeah, we'll get to Rose in a second. I'm with you there. Hill would be the guy that I would want to take a closer look at of anybody here, just because I don't assume he'll get any ownership because he's George Hill.
Yeah.
So it could be a nice place to get a little different. Let's move to Minnesota now. If you had to pick a wolf, I like saying it's singular. Which wolf do you like?
Jimmy.
Yeah, it's hard not to, right? 9,500 on FanDuel, 8,100 on DK. At a position that's generally not all that strong. I mean, he's got an enormous amount of pressure on him in a home opener here. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the price tag is obviously a lot more fair than the 6,700 was.
Yeah,
but I mean, he played 32 minutes in that game, and it's a game where they had said that his stints would be limited a little bit. So I assume he, gets back
into the game there.
Yeah, it's the pop up on ESPN.
Gotcha.
I assume he gets back into the Tibbs, Jimmy Butler 36, 37 minute range here. It's a nice matchup. He shot the ball 23 times.
Yeah.
He shot the ball more than Karl Anthony Towns, Jeff Teague, and Taj Gibson combined.
Yeah, I mean, he went for it. He went for it for sure.
He
shot the ball more than Towns played minutes.
Yeah. Side note: Karl Anthony Towns shot the ball 6 times, and that is concerning because we saw that happen last year too, where he just doesn't do anything offensively, even though he should. And part of the reason is because Jimmy Butler. And by part, I mean like 80%.
Look, this team is just broken, and I'm thinking that they might just be a team that you don't want to have because anytime that Derrick Rose is taking 12 shots in a game, like on purpose, I think is a problem.
Yeah, I would say so. Anytime that Derrick Rose is playing 31 minutes and Tyus Jones is playing 16, that's also a problem.
It is. It's a very, very big problem.
Like, flip those minutes and you have just a much better team.
Curtis in chat, why did Towns play 22 minutes? Towns had 6 fouls.
Yeah, the minutes for Towns aren't concerning. The fact that...
No, he's not going to suddenly not play.
Right. Yeah, the fact that he just was not involved offensively, and that's something that we saw happen more than on occasion last season, is the concerning part.
Yeah, that is very real. I'll back up over this box score from the first game.
7 players shot more times than Towns. Six players shot more times than Towns.
Borgie Zhang had more shots than him.
Yeah.
Ugh. I don't know if I could talk myself into Butler aside from him just essentially trying to be the Minnesota hero here. There's so much volatility in Minnesota. Like I can't trust anything.
I don't think there's that much with Butler though. I mean,
what if they get sick of his shit?
What are they going to do? Like kick him out mid-game?
No, but I mean like they can freeze him out.
Oh, you mean the team?
Yeah. What I mean is like I don't trust this game to go like basketball games normally do. I don't trust Tibbs to make like smart decisions. I don't trust like Cat to be like, oh, I want to play today.
You don't trust Tibbs to run Jimmy Butler into the ground? That's like death and taxes.
I do. I just don't know. Like, I feel like Tibbs. This is going to be a really weird analogy. Like, I feel like Jimmy Butler on this team now is like the coach from Varsity Blues, and he's just trying to like jam a needle into Cat's knee and like get everybody to play. And like at halftime, they're just going to be like, "We're going to go back out there without you, or I'll beat your ass." and they're all just like, yeah. And then Jimmy Butler just packs up a box of shit and leaves.
Okay, so I'm not.
I don't really believe that's going to happen.
No, I know, but I mean, not to discount that there is some percentage chance where there is a game at some point in the next 2 weeks where shit just hits the fan and something really weird happens. This is in everyone's mind. There's a reason Jimmy Butler was 21% owned at $6,700 and not 40+%.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So all the concerns that you're voicing is in everyone's head. And I think it's just naturally going to show up in his ownership and put him lower than he otherwise should be. So to me, I'm just not going to factor it in, and I'm going to project Jimmy Butler to have a monster game here because I think in a normal game environment he would.
EMAC, Bud Kilmer. There you go. I can't play Cat at all at 10-1 on FanDuel.
I would like to, just from a ownership upside perspective, but the field goal attempts just scare me because we saw it happen so much last year.
Yeah, you can only play him in a tournament, in my opinion. You can't trust Towns and Cash right now.
Yep,
he can just disappear. Any interest in Teague or Wiggins? I think Teague is worth a slight peek.
I think Wiggins is too. If you want to talk about the whole revenge narrative, that's the one where I would focus.
Yeah, for real. 18 shot attempts from Wiggins. I like it. 6 threes. I'll take it. I mean, that's a really solid stat line for Wiggins.
I don't remember. I think he
actually
does go like ham against Cleveland like every time they play.
I think you're right. Career splits. Cleveland played 8 games, averaging 28 a game against them. This is highest average by a mile against anybody. 123 offensive rating against Cleveland in his career. The clear highest number for any team. Super high usage. True shooting percentage against Cleveland, 64.7. Again, that's the spot. Might be something to think about.
He's still not overly consistent from like a DraftKings perspective. Looking back at his last 6, he's hit 46, he's hit 51.8, and then he's been below 33 times. So it's obviously like, I don't know how you feel about it, but the whole narrative stuff is, I don't pay attention to it in any sport except basketball.
I agree.
Factor it in some, and it's still not, it's easy when Wiggins goes out there and scores 52 to be like, oh, why did I not have 100% Wiggins against Cleveland? It was so obvious, but like, it's still not anywhere close to like what I am going to weight the most. But I am going to at least, bump his usage a little bit because I think it's more likely that he just starts chucking.
I completely agree. There are teams where a guy's just like, oh, yo, that dude banged my girl.
Right.
I'm going hard tonight.
Right. It's the one sport where if you want to, and you're a good enough player to like be able to demand the ball in your hands, that you can just go do whatever you want.
For sure. Like, there's not a lot of revenge game narratives for like Taj Gibson.
Right.
Because, he can only work so hard on the glass. But it's not like he's facing somebody up at the top of the key and breaking somebody down.
Yeah, I definitely factor it in for scorers.
Yeah, I agree. It can exist in baseball.
Right. Every other sport, the argument is like, oh, they're going to try harder. No, they're not.
No.
Like, you're not going to try to hit the ball better than you did, yesterday. But in basketball, trying harder leads to actual increased volume and opportunity because it just leads to you shooting the ball more.
Yep. So Kevin Love or Jimmy Butler if you had to pick one in this game?
Kevin Love's one of my favorite plays on the slate.
I completely agree with you there. Derrick Rose at 4K, 3,900 on DK. He's got to be in play, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize he was that cheap. I assumed he was like 5K.
Yeah, 4,000 on FanDuel, 3,900 on DK. What's his
He's got to be chalk, right?
I don't know.
Not that I would even care. I mean, 3,900 is absurd.
Yeah, he's got to be someone that everyone is looking at. Derrick Rose minutes tonight,
mid-20s.
Okay, I have him at 24.
The concern would be that Tyus Jones is a better basketball player.
That would be a concern if they had a different basketball coach.
Right. And also, there's not a point guard on Cleveland that they need a lockdown defender. So I think that lowers Jones a little bit. Like, Rose is who they would go to, I think, when they need scoring. Jones could see increased minutes in games where they need a defensive stopper at point guard, but that's not going to be this game.
No. Oh, I'm going to have Derrick Rose tonight, and I'm going to hate myself.
How highly would Rose have to be projected for you to like pivot him to Tyus Jones?
I don't think I would.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, I think the slate's too big for that. If it was a slate like yesterday,
yeah, it's just I don't think Tibbs would do it.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a situation where he rides Tyus Jones because it's going well.
I was thinking more that he rides Tyus Jones because it's going poorly. But
sure.
Rose played 31 minutes, shooting 3 for 12. So I think we've already reached that point.
Yeah. All right.
So Derrick Rose is a really good value play.
Yeah. This next one should be fun. The new god. Pelicans and Kings. Pelicans 120.75 implied total. Kings 109.75. Pels the highest projected scoring team of the day. I don't think that this will be any shock. Anthony Davis is 13,300 on FanDuel in game 2 of the season. And he might be underpriced.
He might be my favorite fantasy player this season.
You're out on a pretty lengthy limb there.
No, but I mean, like, I don't know. I thought I liked him more than Harden in that last game just because it's just such a vacuum that he's filling now with no Cousins there. He's going to get more rebounding opportunities. He gets more, scoring opportunities. Obviously, they're playing at a faster pace now. There's just so much working in his favor. I don't know. I love Anthony Davis.
32, 16, 8, 3, and 3. Good God. I think it's really crazy that he didn't shoot a 3.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not trying to tell him to do anything different here, but it's kind of nuts. What do you think his ownership is on FanDuel at 13,300?
I mean, obviously without building lineups or anything, so purely guessing, like 30 to 40.
That's so insane to think about.
I'm assuming that FanDuel has a bunch of underpriced guys. Which actually they might not. I was scrolling through when I did the podcast last night. I thought I was looking at DraftKings pricing, but I accidentally had FanDuel pricing up.
That's good.
So I'm looking. I'm like, man, DraftKings got their pricing really tight. Then I realized it was FanDuel, so it's a little softer, but it still seemed pretty decent.
So obviously, everything that could go right for the Pelicans went right against the Rockets. They have a slightly better matchup here against the Kings.
A little bit.
Elfrid Payton, $7K now on FanDuel, $5,800 on DK. I'd say that I like him significantly more on DraftKings.
Yeah.
Although, scary spot, De'Aaron Fox is not like a cupcake on the opposite side.
Yeah, it's just such a cheap price. I would he's my first point guard in that range on DraftKings, and then Trae Young.
Okay.
And then Trey Burke.
So is there anybody you don't like on the Pels? Davis, Holiday, Randall, Mirotic, Payton.
I'll throw Etuan Moore in there too. I like them all. 7,200 for Holiday is stupid cheap.
Yep.
This is like a natural game stack if you can find the value to make it work, because Davis is the best play. Holiday is underpriced. Payton's underpriced. You have monster upside in guys like Randall and Mirotic. Moore is cheap. And then on the other side, you have kind of cheap guys in Fox and Hield that you can go to Bielitsa if he starts again. So I think this is a game that kind of can naturally build itself game stack wise, even if you're just going like best play at each position.
Oh boy, this is quite the game. I don't know who I like the most.
Anthony Davis.
I mean, yeah. He doesn't really count.
Yeah, no. Looking at using DraftKings pricing, I would say it's a toss up for me between Drew and I think I would lean Payton a little over Drew at their prices, but
yeah. I think the guy that slips through the cracks here for me is probably Mirotic. 7,200 on FanDuel, 7,000 on DraftKings.
For you, or you think like for the field.
For me.
Oh, okay, yeah. It seems like a spot like with him coming off of a 50 fantasy point game. We know that's his ceiling, but nothing really changed as far as how you should project him, I don't think. I mean, he played 30 minutes. He shot over 50% from the field. He shot 75% from three. He grabbed 10 rebounds. He had a ceiling game, and we always knew that ceiling was there. But there's nothing that I think should make you like project him a lot higher than you already were. He got 20 field goal attempts, which is nice, but that's also probably a factor of him hitting 6 of 8 from three, and he was 6 for 6 until the fourth quarter.
They used a really tight rotation, which is appealing, at least from a
Yep.
fantasy perspective.
Yeah, and Randall was in foul trouble.
Yeah.
So he would have gotten even more minutes. I assume at the expense of Darius Miller.
Him or Solomon Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
I'm gonna have a lot of
literally-
Pelicans, that's for sure. I think I'm slowly talking myself into a big Randall game here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good spot for him. I think he should play. Let me get that rotation up, but I think he should play more than 24 minutes.
Yeah, he played that big chunk mid first to mid second. Essentially, was he was looking like he was going to close it out. Came out with like 3 minutes left in the second quarter. Who's off the floor? There's too many guys here. I think NBA rotation stat info is a little wrong here.
Where are you looking?
I mean, there's just too many guys on the floor in the second quarter.
It's the color coding. Like, it throws you off visually, but it works. Like where it's lighter is like they subbed out after 20 seconds or whatever.
Okay, that makes sense.
So like where there's 7 guys on the floor at like the
Yeah.
7-minute mark.
So AD came off slightly.
Right.
Mirotic was off for a spot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I was
making
looking at it
more
yesterday.
sense.
Like, what the hell is going on?
I was like, oh, no wonder they blew out the Rockets. They were playing 7-on-5. This shit's gonna go squirrely too. They're not gonna beat them.
They all played 40 minutes too.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Gentry's another guy who kind of has a reputation of running his starters into the ground and not necessarily only in close games either. I mean, this game, for all intents and purposes, was over halfway through the fourth quarter, and they closed except for the last 2 minutes with Davis, Holiday, Payton, Moore, Randall. So I think the minutes are pretty safe here.
I agree.
Randall closing over Mirotic is worth pointing out.
Yeah, I wonder if, is that just because of the game?
Possibly. I mean,
Mirotic played quite a healthy stretch early.
So I think that it's hard without going back. One thing I don't like about NBA rotations compared to Popcorn Machine is Popcorn Machine, you can like look really quickly and see where someone fouled and got taken out. As far as I know, can't see that on here without going through like actual game logs, which I haven't done yet. But I am guessing that in the second quarter where you see Mirotic come out for Anthony Davis and then a minute later come back in for Randall, I'm guessing that was a key foul for Randall.
Yeah.
And that otherwise Miro would have lost those 2.5 minutes and Randall would have played another 2.5 there to close the first half.
Agreed.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's still basically the analysis we did for the Rockets game where we said Mirotic had a really high ceiling, Randall had a really high ceiling, and both would probably play around 30 minutes, I think is correct, and what you'll see again here. The fact that Mirotic had a ceiling game and Julius Randle got in foul trouble and sucked shouldn't have any impact on how you approach this game because I think it hasn't changed.
Do you think they're over-owned for the day?
Probably not. I mean, because Davis, I don't really care what his ownership is. I don't think he's over-owned.
Yeah, he kind of transcends ownership.
Right. And then
there aren't many guys on the slate that could put up 100 fantasy points.
Right, exactly. I could see Mirotic being over-owned relative to Randall. That's one spot where if Mirotic is projected for like twice the ownership as Randall, I'm going to just flip it.
Yep. I completely agree there. Let's talk about the Sacramento side. Anybody standing out for you? Because I got a lot of a couple of these dudes.
Well, it depends on what they do with their starting lineup. Don't forget that they had announced one starting lineup and then switched it like 10 minutes before lock.
Yeah.
So, assuming they go with the same lineup that they had, if we're going to get 28 minutes of Bielitsa, that's really appealing.
Yep. Completely agree.
Buddy Hield, I think it's a good spot for him, and the usage is going to be there. He's cheap enough. He as inconsistent as he is, he was still close to a fantasy point per minute player last year. And so when he's 5,500 and going to play 30 something minutes, even though it feels like you're taking a big risk with him, he's not as volatile as it feels like. I don't think, and so that puts him in play. If you're going to get 30 minutes from Yogi Ferrell, he sucks, but he's cheap.
3,900 on FanDuel. I have him in for 27 minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, if he plays 27 minutes, you have to have a decent amount of Yogi Ferrell.
I would rather play Derrick Rose, but I think that Ferrell's certainly in play. And then, De'Aaron Fox, I think obviously is a good play. And then even Cauley Stein, he's going to be on the floor a lot.
Yeah. So long
this
as
is
he's
just
not
such a
fouling out.
Yeah.
Does he get squirrely with fouls?
Actually, not sure.
Let's find out.
Yeah, I don't know. This is just like a really natural game stack to me with the way the pricing is.
Willie Cauley-Stein was pretty good actually last year. 63rd percentile for big men in terms of foul percentage. So, he's an above average guy at not fouling.
Yeah.
That's good to know. If he was like 15th percentile or something crazy, it'd be a nice reason to not be anywhere near him, because it's not like Anthony Davis isn't going to get a lot of touches.
Right.
But yeah, he should be able to manage that. I like De'Aaron Fox at 6,500 for FanDuel.
Yeah, me too.
He should just be out there for a while. Not super worried about the matchup. It's not like he's going to get Elfrid Payton. It's not like they're going to be like, oh, we need Drew to lock down De'Aaron Fox. Not that kind of offensive guy.
Yeah. Plus, it's just going to be such a fast-paced game that I'm not really worried about efficiency hits anyway.
Agreed. So yeah, there's value on the Sacramento side. I just got to hope that they can keep it close enough. But I think Yogi Ferrell is the guy that I like the most on the Kings, just from a price point perspective.
Yeah, I think it's Bielitsa for me.
Yeah, B Jelly at 4,600 on DraftKings is super, super appealing. What's his eligibility? Is it dual? Yeah.
Yeah, small forward, power forward.
Yeah. Not that that's super valuable, but it helps. Moving on, because we're already at an hour and 12 minutes, and we have 4 more games to go.
God.
Now, this is the real game on the slate, but I don't find it very appealing. I actually think we'll probably go through this pretty quick. Raptors and Celtics. Raptors 105.5 implied total. Celtics 102.5. Raptors 3-point favorites at home. I don't love this game from a fantasy perspective. This is two of the 5 best defenses, or at least what should be the 5 best defenses in the league. The only thing that you can do here, in my opinion, is make plays against price, because it shouldn't be like a super viable fantasy game. Can we talk about Kyrie Irving's price on DraftKings?
Yeah, I would love to.
How the fuck is he 6,600?
I don't know, but I'm playing him.
Yeah, right? What ownership are you comfortable with having Kyrie here? Because obviously it's about as bad of a matchup against like a team defense as you can have. But he's 6,600. He's $1,400 too cheap, maybe?
Yeah, 30, 40%.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it's basically the same thing we said about Trae Young at that price point, and the same thing we said about Alex Len at that price point, where if you just played him at this price tag every single slate, he makes you a ton of money. But then you also factor in that Kyrie Irving is a hell of a lot better than either of them.
Yeah, like Kyrie could have 60 fantasy points tonight.
Right. Is it likely? No, but like bad matchups don't lower your ceiling. It just makes you less likely to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's 8K on FanDuel, which is, where he should be. I don't get it at all. You got to mash Kyrie on DK.
How do you do against Lowry last year?
I have no idea. You would think, well.
I don't think it's that tough of a like. I think it's a better matchup for Kyrie than it is for like Hayward. They only played once last year. Kyrie had uh, basically a fantasy point per minute. He's basically a fantasy point per minute guy over his last 4 meetings. 3 of them were with Cleveland. But 41 and a half points in 38 minutes, 38.8 in 35, 35 and 37, and then 22 and a half in 22.
Is there anybody else in this game that you want?
I don't think so.
I got a lot of Kawhi on FanDuel. 9,400.
I don't hate it. It's just he seems like he doesn't seem discounted for the matchup like Kyrie does.
Well, yeah. No one does.
Well, yeah, but I mean like at all.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It's just a scary game. I want to watch it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a fantastic game to visually see, but there's just there's too many guys on the Celtics to really feel comfortable about anybody outside of making plays on price.
And they all, yeah, I was gonna say, and they got a price jump with the exception of Gordon Hayward, who fell a little bit, but like Jason Tatum jumped like $1,000 on DraftKings.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you're still ignoring Gordon Hayward on FanDuel. He's 7,100. That is, you just can't play him.
Right.
I mean, Terry Rozier at 4,400, I think, is a nice value on DraftKings.
Yeah, it's not
like
bad.
If he's cooking, it can go.
Yeah, him and VanVleet both, if DeLon Wright's out, are guys that are going to be really, really volatile plays, but should play 25 minutes and are good enough to do some damage.
Anybody from the Raptors?
Not as a core play at all.
Okay, yeah, same page. Just nobody standing out.
Yeah, it's not. I don't hate Kyle Lowry, but I hate paying $1,000 more for Kyle Lowry than for Kyrie.
Yeah, that's so silly.
I'm really interested to see where Kyrie's ownership comes in at.
Yeah, what is DraftKings doing with some of these guys?
I don't know. Their pricing's been weird, but so far I've liked it because either I've been getting lucky or people have just been making ridiculous mistakes so far.
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, this game is mostly a stay away for me.
Yeah, it's pretty much Kyrie.
But you should watch it, everybody, because it's the best basketball on the slate.
Right behind Knicks and Brooklyn.
Yeah. Right behind Grizzlies, Hawks.
Yeah, oh God.
Bucks and Pacers, which is a sneaky fun game. Bucks 110 implied total, Pacers 106.5, 3.5 point favorites for the Bucks. I mean, this is like a really fun 4-5 matchup in April.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that again in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Giannis 11-8 on FanDuel, 11,000 on DK. Just went crazy bananas in his last time out. Did he have 20 rebounds? Am I getting that right?
I'm pulling up now. I know he had.
It might be more than that.
He had 33 DraftKings points halfway through the second quarter, but then he kind of died.
He had 25, 18, 8.
That's insane.
Oh my God.
I need him to stop being on the same slate as Anthony Davis.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
He was 0 for 3 from 3, so he's not completely like God mode yet.
Any problem having a bunch of Giannis here at 11K?
No. The only problem is that he's not named Anthony Davis, but that's nitpicking.
What do you think their ownerships look like relative to each other?
Davis probably 2 to 2.5 times higher. Because
that's wrong, right?
I honestly don't know. I mean, Davis without Cousins on the floor last year averaged 1.6 DraftKings points per minute. Giannis, you can't project him, I don't think, for more than like 1.4 or 1.5. Like 1.5 tops as far as any projection that isn't just like he's capable of scoring 70. And like Davis legitimately can go for 100. I think Giannis can go for like 80 or 85.
That's such a crazy even thing to say. Like I agree with
Yeah.
what you're saying, but it's just weird to think about their ceilings like that. But
Right. Yeah.
oh
I
my
mean,
god.
but it's just that, and like the chances of Davis failing aren't particularly high. The chances of Giannis failing aren't high, but it's just like I can't find anything where Giannis is better than Davis, and they're really closely priced. And if Davis were going to be like 35% and Giannis was going to be like 3, then it would make a lot of sense. But if
Yeah.
you're talking about 30% Davis to 15% Giannis, even if you get Giannis right, you're competing with a massive number of people,
Yep.
and you're not going to be right that often. So I don't know. I still think I would lean Davis. Like the last slate they played, what Davis was 15 and Giannis was like 10,
Yeah.
but you also had Harden on that slate eating up some ownership. And then Davis is coming off, a 79-point game. I think Davis probably ends up being like, yeah, 2.5 ish times Giannis.
Oh.
But I don't know that I think Giannis beats him 30% of the time or something.
Any interest in Middleton, Bledsoe, Brogdon?
They'll be my player pool.
Sure.
Bunch of minutes, high upside guys in Bledsoe and Middleton, Brogdon, cheap enough price tag. But not anything I'm too excited about. Ilyasova playing 29 minutes last game.
That's what I was just about to say. I think Ilyasova is my favorite value on this game.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up that rotation because Lopez only played 21 minutes, and so that obviously makes. Damn it, I had it open and didn't realize it. That obviously makes a difference if he got in like foul trouble or something. Lopez played 3 minutes to start the fourth quarter and then came out. I That was alongside Ilyasova anyway, though. Um, they closed the first half alongside each other. Yeah, I mean, it looks like Ilyasova comes off the bench, but then closes. He's in the closing lineup over Lopez.
Yeah.
No, Lopez. Who didn't close the first? No, Middleton didn't close the first. Ilyasova got closing minutes in the second quarter over Chris Middleton, which isn't going to happen.
No.
So I think we can knock Ilyasova down to like 25, 26 minutes. 24 to 26 probably is where I would project Ilyasova.
I mean, they also closed the second quarter with DiVincenzo, and that is not a guy that's going to be like closing most things,
Yeah.
even if he's playing.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh right. Giannis was in foul trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that Ilyasova loses a few minutes, but I think that he still plays as he's a key member of the rotation. He's going to play mid-20s, I would think.
I have him directly on the mid-20s at 25.
Yeah, that seems right to me. Like 29, I think is high.
Yeah, I agree.
And by extension, Brooke, I think, plays 25, 26.
I have him in it for 26.
All right, cool.
Anything from Indiana? 84 for Oladipo on FanDuel, 84 on DK. I like him on FanDuel there.
Yeah, I like it more on FanDuel for sure. And I don't. It's kind of the same spot for me as it was in the first game for Oladipo. The price is fine. He's going to play a lot of minutes. He's a usage monster. All that is great, but there are still some underpriced guys on DraftKings at the guard positions. I would rather play Jimmy Butler than Oladipo. And then you're talking about almost $2,000 more for Oladipo than Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
It's not a great spot for Oladipo. I mean, it's a Milwaukee team that has a ton of length. They can do a lot to slow him down. So I'm not really that interested. And he's one of those guys that just always carries ownership. Like he was 15% on the first slate, and it's so unusual for him to drop below like 10% ownership that it's pretty rare to be able to get him as like a guy that can just win you a tournament if he scores 60.
He likes a bonus. Played a lot.
You said you like Sabonis a lot?
I'm asking if you like Sabonis because he played a lot.
Let me pull that one up. Was Turner hurt or in foul trouble or something?
He picked up 2 early in his first stint, but no foul. I think he only had 3 fouls for the game. Turner played, the first 8 minutes of the first quarter. Sabonis came on, played the rest of the first quarter and all of the second quarter. Miles Turner didn't play a single second in the second quarter. Then Turner played all of the third quarter. Sabonis came in for the end of that. And then at that point, Turner didn't play in the fourth.
Right. So he was playing over Turner and he was playing over Young.
But is the reason Turner didn't play in the fourth quarter just because of the game?
I would think so. Yeah, I mean, they closed alongside. No, they didn't. So why didn't Turner play in the second quarter?
He had 2 fouls, and maybe that's how they're going to do it. I don't know.
Man, that really scares me just because there's no way their actual rotation is that Miles Turner plays 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't see him. I don't think the second quarter are the minutes that are weird, though. I would say that you would be more likely to see Turner pick up 3 to 4 minutes in the maybe 6 minutes in the fourth quarter.
Well, I think the second quarter too. Like he's not going to sit the entire second quarter.
I don't know. He might. I mean, they played Sabonis the entire second quarter. They essentially played Evans the entire second quarter. They played McBuckets for essentially the entire second quarter. Like, they might just be doing that.
That would just make no sense. Like Turner is one of the guys that they should be playing like more.
Like Oladipo played less than 2 minutes in the second quarter. He played 1:41.
He was in foul trouble too, I think, if I remember it.
He had 1 foul. Did he pick up one in that stretch? Oh, he had 2.
I definitely don't remember right then.
So the 1:41, he picked up a foul in that 1:41, but it was only his second. So I can't make heads or tails of what they're doing there.
Yeah, that's really weird. So
I would say that Turner would never play. Like he's going to play in the second quarter, and Sabonis won't play all of the second quarter. But they also basically didn't play their best player for the entire second quarter. So
I think the main takeaway is that you're not playing either of them in cash, but that Miles Turner and Sabonis both have paths to success in tournaments, and you should not play them on the same team.
I would agree. Sabonis at 5,600 on FanDuel, I think, is worth a flyer. More so than Turner at 62.
Yeah. Turner 58 on DraftKings, Sabonis 59. I prefer Turner. But I think that so both of these guys, I think that for tournaments, there's certainly merit to projecting them higher than you would in like in cash games. Obviously I don't think you should play either one, but in cash projections you would want to kind of aim for the middle and their medium projection. Tournaments, I think that the best way to approach spots like this is to project Sabonis for like his ceiling minutes and project Turner for his ceiling minutes, and then cap your exposure and make sure they're not together.
Yep. I completely agree with you there. Next level thinking, people. Anybody else you want to talk about in this game?
Evans is pretty cheap. Not a spot that I like, but he's cheap.
That is a true statement.
Yeah. And he's got the guard forward eligibility, which is really valuable.
Yeah, he should be pretty popular on DK because of that. I don't know if I don't mean that like his ownership is going to be high, but like he should be popular because of that.
Right. Like he's 6,100. He's going to play around 30 minutes. He does everything. I mean, he's a highly productive player when he plays.
I don't know if that's B Trail or B Trawl in the chat. I can't tell if that's an I or an L just because of the font color. Slack link. If you go to awesemo.com on the homepage, in the top left corner, you'll see a button that looks like a hashtag. Click the hashtag. That's the Slack link. 2 games left. Let's close this out. Clippers and Thunder. Fun game. Clippers 108.5 implied total. Thunder 107. So 1.5 point favorites for the Clips. I assume we're still not seeing Russell Westbrook. Any reason to suspect otherwise?
No, I mean they said that he's out, but that could change. I don't know. I'm assuming he's like doubtful.
Okay. So Paul George, 9,200 FanDuel, 8,700 on DK. I'm going to have a hard time not having Paul George. Any Paul George sadness narrative for not being in LA this year?
So I think it's kind of site dependent. I like Paul George a lot. He averaged 1.25 fantasy points without Westbrook last season. He's going to play a ton of minutes. It's a good pace and everything. On DraftKings, I think I prefer Jimmy. I guess he's really close to Jimmy Butler. So yeah, I like Paul George a lot. I was just going to say that I think that he's probably easier to get in on FanDuel since you have to roster the two small forwards, and like he's less expensive than Kawhi.
I'm pulling up the NBA WOWY numbers from last year. I want to take a look at how everybody looked without Russ on the floor. I've got a little tool. You can't see my screen right now. I can share it with you if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. So I assume you're familiar with NBA WOWY, but for those that aren't, allows you to look at a bunch of on-off numbers for specific teams. So the first thing that I do is grab all of the data from last year, just raw, everybody on the floor, and I add it to this with table. And we'll get to the point of all of this in a second once it rolls through. Oh, it might be faster to just paste this automatically, but okay. Good to know that it's the same size. And then now I'll bring Russell Westbrook off. We don't need to have the conversation about having Roberson on or off in this particular case. I'm just for anybody that's about to scream about it, like, yo, he's also not playing. It's not the point of this little exercise right now. So now that I take Russ off, I'll grab those exact same this exact same table, which is the fantasy table. Shows you the amount of minutes they played with Russ off the floor and their DK and FanDuel scoring. And then when I dump that into this without table, it'll compare how they did with him to without him, weighted for minutes to see if there's any like appreciable changes to their performance with and without. And the first thing that pops up for me when I do this, Paul George, 16% change in his FanDuel points per minute with Russ off the floor than on the floor. That's just like people think about that pretty naturally. That's a pretty high number.
Yeah.
16% is big.
Especially for someone who is originally as productive as George is.
Yeah.
Like Carmelo Anthony going up 43%. That's a big number too, but Carmelo Anthony was just dog shit last year when Westbrook and George were on the floor.
Yeah, and one key metric here, Melo only played 190 minutes without Westbrook on the floor, which is crazy to think about. Paul George played 600. So like I take a lot more, I put a lot more weight into the Paul George 600 minutes. George averaged 1.04 FanDuel points per minute last year, and he was at 1.25 when Russ was off the floor.
Yep. And and I think that you would expect it to hold true this year. Like obviously Carmelo Anthony's not there either, but you have Dennis Schroeder, who's a high usage guy filling in.
Yeah.
I think if I don't have it in front of me, but if I remember right, without Westbrook on the floor last year, Anthony had like a 35% usage percentage or something. I think that expecting Schroeder
38.
Oh wow. Okay. But yeah, I think expecting Schroeder to be in that, mid 30 range is perfectly reasonable. And so I'm not like bumping or decreasing George for that reason.
I would agree. So I think that you definitely want to bump George in some fashion because of Russ being off the floor. And I also think that you probably want to bump Schroeder.
Yeah. I think Schroeder's unplayable if Westbrook were to actually play because he's now priced for Westbrook to be out. But and I don't think so. The first game Schroeder was kind of like a no-brainer. You have to play him at 6,700.
Yeah.
7,700 on this slate. Especially if he's going to be popular, which I have no idea if he will or not, but I think it's much more of a marginal play. Like he still has upside, but there are guys that have upside below him as well.
Yeah, I'll have some Schroeder because it's too good of a spot, but it is not the same spot that it was 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Any interest in anybody else on Oklahoma City, Adams or Grant? Pat.
I think Grant's a decent value. Yeah. I think Grant's a decent value option. He's, close to a point per minute guy. You should see 25, 26 minutes out of him, most likely. So some interest there.
Yeah, I'll have a decent amount of George and Schroeder here. Clippers side, really tough for me. It's just a really weird team. I'll probably have some Montrezl Harrell on FanDuel. That's probably it.
I like Shea at 3,800 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, at 3,800, it's not going to take a lot to convince me.
Yeah, I mean he should play in the mid 20s, I think, and the pace should be nice.
Lou Williams at 5,800, I think, is a price point where he could really blow that out of the water in the right Lou Williams game.
Yeah, I do think that this entire Clippers team actually is underpriced. Shea at 38, Pat Bev at 4,700. He lost some minutes to foul trouble last game. He's obviously not the best fantasy producer, but that's a cheap price tag. Williams is cheap. Gallinari is cheap. Harris is the most accurately priced, but he still has some upside at 7,400. So I do think that the Clippers are a team where, as we go through this game, just kind of talking about it, it's nobody's like jumping off the page. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if once I get my projections done and start like crunching stuff, if these guys are in more lineups than I am anticipating right now.
Yeah, I don't think that I'll end up with a ton of them because I don't really know. I would have to. You have to spray pretty wide with the Clips.
Yeah.
Like, there's nobody that's just an out and out, I got to play this guy, but there's like 8 options of guys that could have big games.
Yeah. And it's like another spot where it kind of feels like the Knicks sort of, where there's a lot of places the production can come from, but I think it's going to be there. I mean, this Oklahoma City team without Andre Roberson is just so bad defensively.
Yeah.
And these guys are underpriced based on their ceilings. I think that a couple of them probably put up good scores.
Yeah. Chat seems to be tugging off Boban pretty hard right now.
Yeah.
I don't have any interest there. I mean, 3,900 on DK, like, it's a flyer, but Steven Adams isn't going to put up with his shit.
Well, the one thing that makes me like Boban is the clip. It sounds like, at least from Clippers beat writers, that they're actually planning on using him a fair amount as the backup center instead of just having him sit on the bench. And you would expect him to play the most, obviously, in games where a team has 2 centers. And you have Steven Adams, and then you have Nerlens Noel. Like, there's going to be 48 minutes of an actual center on the floor for Oklahoma City, which obviously helps Boban.
Yeah. So, key note here for everyone. Boban, in my projection system, on a per possession basis, is the 19th best player in fantasy.
He's so freaking insanely good. So I guess thinking about that more, if you look at, so you have Gortat as the starting center, and then you have Boban as the backup. Harrell can play. I guess you could have Harrell out there with Noel, I guess, for some minutes.
I have Harrell for 20 minutes. I have Gortat for 22. I have Boban for 11. Think I'm underrepresenting Boban there?
I'm not sure. That's what so the thing is, how many minutes is Harrell going to play at the 4? I haven't looked at the Clippers rotation from last game. If they're playing him mostly at the 4, then it's probably low on Boban. If not,
the colors for the Clippers popcorn machine are really hard to look at. The blue stands out more than the red.
Oh yeah, it does.
At least in my eyes. Man, this must be a really shitty site to look at if you're colorblind.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
The gray versus gray.
Where?
So Boban didn't play the entire first quarter.
Yeah. Harrell subbed in at the 5 for Gortat. Then Boban came in to start the second for Harrell. And then Gortat closed it. So those 3 played center. In the first half, they had center minutes were split between those 3.
Yeah.
In the second half, you had Harrell alongside Boban.
Yeah.
Which that could work. So the most likely path, I think, to Boban getting minutes is that Marcin Gortat's not very good.
And, just a body.
Right. And they put Boban out there against Adams. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think I like Harrell. Well, let me think about this.
You can do it with Boban and Harrell. Like, it's another spot where I don't want a lot of either one because I think that they have like no floor and it's really risky. But you can in tournaments you can project them to their ceiling and then cap them, and it will give you enough exposure to them to where if they do have a game where Marching Gortat doesn't play the fourth quarter because Boban plays 16 minutes, then you have enough Boban to cover that.
Good God, I can't believe we're having this much of a conversation about Boban.
Oh, what's
He's
he
just
average?
so
Like
efficient.
yeah, like what is it, like 2 fantasy points per minute or something?
Yeah, like in my projection system, I have him at we'll say like 0.61 per possession. So, I mean, this is with a ton of regression because he's a guy that doesn't get a lot of time. So, like what he's done and the way that I project him are two very different things because he has so many less personal possessions than other people. So regression gets him a lot, but he's at like 1.2 or 1.3 points per minute, even regressed.
It's insane.
I have him on a per possession basis. I have him higher than Capella. I have him higher than Porzingis. I have him higher than Oladipo, Damian Lillard. These are guys that he every time he's on the floor, he goes nuts.
So one thing that you can look to that makes me like Boban a little bit more is if you look at the time that Harrell was alongside Boban, the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, the Nuggets had Plumlee at center, so they had a traditional center. They had Trey Lyles at the 4. So that's because I was kind of concerned that they wouldn't play Harrell at the 4 against like an athletic guy or a shooter. But if they're going to play him at the 4 against Trey Lyles, then I don't know that there's anyone that's playing the 4 for Oklahoma City in those minutes that they wouldn't play him against.
Agreed. Jordan in chat, Harrell only played power forward because Boban played so well. They needed his energy. Boban just had one of his great games. No, Boban only has great games.
Yeah, Boban's never bad.
I'm not even trying to be funny, and I don't think you are either. He's always incredibly efficient when he's on the floor. They just simply don't play him because he is unable to play defense.
He's so slow.
Yeah, he gets cooked.
Right.
But I mean, he broke the rim 2 nights ago.
Like basically what happened.
Broke it.
Like basically what happened in the second quarter is that, I mean, not second quarter, the second half, is that Gortat just lost his minutes to Boban.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could continue. I don't know.
This is not a matchup where I would say it can't. Like it's not like you have a stretch 5 out there that's going to just murder Boban.
Look, Boban was +7 for the game and he had 18 points. They're going to keep putting him out there if they're not losing and he's playing well. It's right. Really that simple. But if they go 5 straight possessions and someone roasts Boban, he's going to be parked on the pine.
Yeah, and I think like if you were talking about like if they're playing like Brook Lopez or Vucevic or something, I would not be interested at all in Boban because they would just absolutely torch him. But that's not who Steven Adams is. Like Steven Adams is the kind of guy that Boban can
play against,
stand next to.
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, he's worth a flyer. It's the only question in this game for Boban is how many minutes do you think he will play? It's not a production question whatsoever. The production's there, I promise.
Right, exactly. And there's not a clear-cut answer to the minutes. It's a very wide range, but he's cheap enough, and the upside, if he gets 15, 16 minutes, he's a guy that can give you 25 fantasy points.
Yeah, like basically we're having a conversation about someone with the fantasy points per minute output of Ben Simmons with a complete question mark on the playing time.
And to be clear, we're talking about a guy who should, like, you should not have a lot of this guy mixed into your teams.
Absolutely not.
But you're
on a 3-game slate when you find out the center's hurt and Boban has to play. Like last year, there was a Boban game where he was like min salary and Drummond sat. Yeah, and Boban went bananas.
Yeah, he was like 40% owned or something.
Yeah, let's close this out with. I guess the 1B game of the day, Jazz and Warriors. Jazz 108 implied total. Warriors 110. So Warriors 2-point favorites in Utah. Another phenomenal game from a basketball standpoint, and a game where I probably don't love a ton from a fantasy perspective outside of plays against price. So, who do you want the most in this game?
Dre at 6,700 and Favors at 5,700 on DraftKings.
Yeah, those are the two correct answers in my opinion. I don't know what it is. My system loves Donovan Mitchell so much.
I love Donovan Mitchell.
So do I, but he great. I don't know how to nerf him, and I don't know what I don't know what it is that drives him to be so highly projected. But he is super duper high. 8K on FanDuel, 7,800 on DK. I'm gonna have him. I'm not gonna be happy about it. But yeah, Draymond at 6,700 on DK is a phenomenal value. I love Curry at 9,600 on FanDuel. Just this is too much ceiling for that.
It's another game I think you can game stack too. Not a lot of optimal plays from it, but certainly a lot of upside. And I think it probably goes overlooked because people have such a distaste for the Jazz in DFS. But I think that it should be a higher scoring game than people will probably give it credit for.
Completely agree. What do you think of Durant here?
I think he's a little underpriced. I think he's a little underpriced in a vacuum, but I think that relative to other plays on the slate, it's still going to be tough to get there, especially on DraftKings where there's so much multi-position eligibility. It's easy to say like, oh, Durant's 9,600. That's a good small forward play or a good forward play. But then when you start playing around with stuff and it's like, do I want to play Kevin Durant at 9,600 or Kevin Love at 8,000? I don't think Durant's underpriced anymore.
Yeah, if you look at it on FanDuel, there are 4 small forwards higher than 99,000. Giannis at 11.8, Durant at 10.2, Kawhi at 9.4, Paul George at 9.2. I think I like Durant the least of those 4.
I think I like him more than Kawhi.
I can see it.
I don't feel like super strongly about it, but I think I like him more than Kawhi.
In Utah, Utah is the only thing that gives me pause there.
So basically, I think that these are both this game and the Boston game are going. They're 4 good teams. They all are capable of playing defense. I think that the Jazz Golden State game is going to be played at a faster pace than the Boston Toronto game.
I would agree with you there.
I think that Durant's a better fantasy player than Leonard.
I would agree with you there. I just get worried about games in Utah. That's all I got. I don't have any real hot take. I just want to watch again. I just want to watch this game, but I have a hard time hashing out its value from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I think Favors getting the backup center minutes is really valuable, and he's cheap. Draymond played a bunch of minutes, even though he was supposedly not going to. He's really cheap, and it's not a terrible matchup for Draymond. And for one, he's not a scorer anyway, but for two, he's going to be going against Derek Favors a lot of the time that he's on the floor, which isn't the end of the world. So I like Draymond's price. I like his matchup. I like pretty much everything about Draymond here. Damian Jones, I assume he held his own against Steven Adams.
He did.
He's got another.
I don't have a ton of interest, but 3,800, it's worth a flyer.
Yeah, him Kevon Looney scares me because he was just so incredibly efficient in that game.
Yeah, I had a ton of Looney night one. I don't have any Looney here.
Yeah. It's I don't know, taking mediocre to bad bigs against this Utah front court kind of scares me. But Damian Jones, at least if I played one of them, I would play Damian Jones. I think he's the one that's locked into more minutes. He did look really good in the preseason. He looked good against Steven Adams.
Yeah.
So it's a bad matchup, but he is still cheap, and I think the minutes should be there.
Is it a bad matchup?
You would think. I
made this point last year. I think that Gobert makes the Jazz defense as a whole better but doesn't necessarily make an individual center matchup worse.
I agree with that for sure, especially on centers that play away from the basket. I'm a little more concerned on Jones, but again, like if he's just catching lobs and grabbing rebounds, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And like I think where Gobert really can cause problems is, with guys driving to the rim with the ball.
Yeah. He's more likely to leave someone because he's going to try to eviscerate, Clay on a drive or something.
Right.
Clay on a drive is probably not the right example.
Which actually, side note, talking about the driving guys, it'll be something to watch going forward because there was a stretch, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, maybe a combination of both, when Gobert and Favors were playing alongside of each other. They were actually an awful team against driving point guards because I think it had to do with, if I remember right, Favors just completely blowing his assignment and then Gobert trying to like cover for Favors. And it just like driving point guards were actually performing significantly above expectation against the Jazz, even though it made no sense. And they were always like 2% owned, and it was a lot of fun. So definitely pay attention to that this season, just in general.
There you go.
Now that they're healthy.
We did it. 9 games. It only took us an hour and 50 minutes. It's ridiculous.
That's it.
Ridiculous. Absolutely.
It's not. I think we did what we do, like an hour and 40 minutes on 3 games yesterday. So we picked it up.
Yeah, we really did. There's too much to talk about. Like NBA is so much more theoretical.
Yeah, and there's so many moving pieces. But yeah, like I really like doing the show in the morning because it kind of gives it makes me actually think about stuff. Whereas if I sit down and just start writing an article, it's really easy for me to be lazy and be like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
I was recording this version of the show solo at like 5:00 in the morning for all of the NBA season last year.
Oh God.
Yeah. I was getting up at 4:30. I was probably starting to record it by like 5:30, doing like an hour, and then going to work.
Yeah, I like doing it. Yeah, I would hate doing that. I like doing the show, like having you to like bounce ideas off of, and to like make me actually have to answer questions that, like, if I were writing an article, it would be really easy when I'm tired to just be like, I don't need to map this out because it's unlikely it happens, and if it does, nobody's gonna hold it against me. So whatever. But
yeah. I wasn't even doing it live. Like I was just recording it. So it was just me quiet to myself in my office in darkness, besides like the lighting rigs and shit.
Yeah.
Wife sleeping, dogs sleeping, and me just talking NBA to myself before the sun rises.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
It wasn't fun. But it led me to the ability to have the show now with you here. And we just went through 9 games. And we will be around in Slack all day. As I mentioned at the beginning of this, I think this happened on the show and not in the pre-show call, but going out to dinner with the wife tonight. But I'm sticking around until lock because I'm a degenerate DFS player. So I will be in Slack all day. Join us if you have questions. If you are interested in signing up at awesemo.com, promo code NBA Strategy, which has been on the screen the entire time, but 7-day free trial for non-fantasy cruncher packages. Come check it out. Get my projections, get Andrew Barron's projections, Alex's rankings, our ownership projections, articles, deeper dive. Nope, deep dive. Deeper dive is a show that is non-existent for this week, but we'll be back next week. Got a ton of it. NBA content is just flowing out of us. Live before lock tonight from 6 to 7. Fast Eddie Fear, Chris Spags breaking it down and taking you all the way up to lock. Adam, anything else from you?
Deep dive coming out sometime before lock, probably around like 4 o'clock Eastern. I'm going to start writing on it now.
Slam dunks, my 2 or 3 favorite value plays of the day, will be out somewhere around that time, maybe a little earlier today. Maybe I'll write that while I produce. From A to B, Andrew and Ben at 2:30. Tune into that as well. That's everything, guys. Best of luck tonight. If you need anything from us, hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Josh Engelman. Adam is at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And we will talk to you again Monday morning, right?
Yep. Actually, I'll be on tomorrow with EMAC.
There you go. Adam and EMAC tomorrow, sometime in the morning. Yeah. I would imagine.
Yeah. I think we're aiming for sometime around 11.
There you go. Sometime around 11 tomorrow. Adam
it's a Friday night. I should be up by like 2 p.m.
There you go. Best of luck, everybody. We're out of here.